last week we promised that we were going to rate Elder Scrolls Online, but we didn't have a system yet. We hadn't come up with how we wanted to rate games. And so this week we've been kind of discussing back and forth. We think we figured out a pretty good system, and
I like it.
It goes, yeah. I think it's very fitting, especially for the types of games that we tend to play. We're going to go with a system of vendor trash, common, uncommon, rare, and epic. So in the scale of vendor trash being like it's an absolute 0. And then, so let's see, how many are there? So there's vendor trash, common, uncommon, rare, and epic. So it's basically a 1 out of 5. So vendor trash is a 1, and then epic would be a 5. Are we going to do, is there any cases where we're going to say, oh man, this is like a totally this is an epic rare, like we don't even talk about that's on the grading scale. But if there's a game out there that's just
that good.
Yeah, it's just that good.
We can do it if we find a game that's that good. I'd promote that.
Yeah, so I don't know. It should be like so rare that we don't even mention it.
This game doesn't need a rating.
But yeah, I like that scale. I think it's good. And so to give people an example, and I specifically said in the show notes, I don't know if you even read the opening. I put the opening stuff at the top, so sometimes you don't see it.
Oh yeah.
I said don't think about it too much, because I know that this could be a question that would be like, like we could have a full 2-hour debate about what the most epic game is. But if you had to pick something, first thing that comes to mind, what would you classify as an epic rated game in our new scale?
Ooh, I would say it would. Now, I'm trying not to think about it too much, but are we talking about games that are native to Linux, or are we talking about games that are played through Steam? Yeah, I can't think of what it's called now.
So let me tell you what my first thought was, but it's going to lead to your question. So my first thought was Metal Gear Solid. For me, favorite game of all time. It hit me at the right time in my life to really that was like one of the games that I first remember picking up and like kind of understanding without any help from like my older cousins or like,
I see
my
what you're
father.
saying now.
That was the game that like hit me spot on. But I don't think that counts in our system, and the Crowbar Kernel Panic system. I don't think that counts because you can't play that game on Linux. It's a PlayStation game.
I would agree.
I mean, is there any way to play that? I mean, I guess if you could play it through like RetroPie or something, maybe if you had some sort of
if you had a
sort of PlayStation emulator,
system, and you did the emulation, you could do it.
So maybe it counts.
Well, would actually no. I kind of would give it to you, because through emulation you could play that game on Linux.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's the same as any other game that you'd play through any other translation layer.
Right. No, I agree with that. But the other thing that I would say though about that game is it's nostalgic for me, and I think it was like one of the most important games to ever come out in history. I mean, like, I think it's a very important game just to gaming in general. I mean, Hideo Kojima in the mechanics and things that he introduced in those games and that whole franchise, even the ones, earlier to the PlayStation one, extremely important. But if we're holding it up to today's standards, I know because you can speed run that game. I mean, you can literally just run one of the exploits of the game that we didn't know at the time as players was that whenever you enter a new zone, everything resets. And so, like, if you're in a room and all the guards see you, you just run to the next room, and the map
so
resets.
You can literally
chase
speed
you there.
run.
Yeah, you could just run through most of that game. You can like run boss to boss.
That's
basically
crazy. Oh my gosh!
It took me months to beat that game, and then like I remember a couple years ago I watched somebody literally just they could beat the whole game in like 19 minutes or something.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So I don't know. That's another thing is like if you're judging games across time and taking into consideration the time period they were released in, then maybe it counts. But you know, I don't know if we were grading that today, if it would really be an epic. So what do you think? What do you think is an epic game?
I would say for me, an epic game would be Halo Combat Evolved. That game, I bought it when it came out, and it was my first M-rated game, so that's kind of like, you know, every kid's like, yeah, man, finally. But I mean, I look back now and I'm like, why was it rated M? Doesn't make sense. There's like some cursing in it, but not even close to as much as some of the games nowadays.
Yeah, there's not any blood or anything in the game.
There's blood, but it's alien blood, so who cares?
Oh, is there? Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, but no, that game was it for me back then. I couldn't get enough of it. I played all the Halos, and that game does play on Linux. And I actually have my original CD that I bought from the store behind me. Right now. Wow. I can pull it right out. Like, I do not let that thing go. I can install it right now. I don't have it installed because I have Halo Master Chief Collection, but I could install it if I wanted to.
That's a good pick. I think that's a good pick. Yeah, and if it's playable on Linux, I think we could give that the epic score, at least for the time period it's in. My relationship with Halo was mostly with the first Halo, the Halo 1.
That's the one. Yep, Halo Combat Evolved. That's it. Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. No, that's the. I don't think I played any of the ones after that, honestly. But that first one we played. I talked about it on our episode 0, but my wife and I, we played that a lot. Because a youth group we were in would do like big events where the funny thing about LAN parties back then, especially with console LAN parties, is like people would just like. At PC LAN parties, everybody's bringing their PC over, but it's like people are lugging like TVs and stuff. And this is in the time period where there was some TV still out there that was not like a flat screen TV, so people are walking.
You had to be pretty buff to be able to bring those in. 2-man lift team for those.
Welcome to Crowbar Kernel Panic, the podcast at the intersection of Linux and gaming. This is episode 5. Can you believe we made it to 5? Episode 5?
It's crazy. I don't even know. I was like, this thing's gonna flop. We're not gonna continue doing it. And now we're like, episode 5, man.
I think the 10 episode mark. I think what I hear is that whenever you get to the 10th episode, that's when you really know. That's when you really have worked out.
Stride.
Yeah, you hit your stride. That's whenever you're coasting along. So we're halfway there. We're halfway there. Live streaming on YouTube at Undercast Collective and the CKP YouTube channel. So that's Crowbar Kernel Panic on YouTube. This episode, we're going to discuss the GPU shortage and using cloud gaming. Now, we've got some examples of some cloud gaming services. You've done a lot of research, and I think you're going to explain to me which one is the best one. But I also have experience using some cloud gaming services, so we're going to talk about that. But before we do, Josh, how was your week?
Crazy. Lots of stuff going on, working, life. Yeah. I haven't done much gaming at all.
It's been really...
Yeah.
It's been really difficult for me to find. I mean, like, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I think I talked about this even last week. I think I'm just in a rut right now, working too much, and it's hard for me to find gaming time. But like, I have such little time now that I don't want to waste it, and I don't know what I should be playing.
Right.
And so I'm in this weird cycle of like, I install a game, I try it, and then I say, but I probably should be playing this other game. And then I install it and I try it, and you know, it doesn't really do it for me. I think right now the thing that I think I'm getting the most productive time out of, like I feel like I'm not wasting my time by playing, is Albion. I've been playing Albion again. I think it's a solid game. You know, I know we talk about it on almost every episode, so I don't want to go too much, you know, into too depth of it. But
burn that candle at both ends.
yeah, definitely. But you know, it's the one right now. It's my comfort food. You know what I mean? Like, it's the game that I keep going back to. It's the most relaxing to me.
Hey, that's
and good. I feel like there's enough things to do that, like, I'm very goal oriented, and I think there's enough things that I can like kind of work towards. That's kind of been my thing.
So are
right
you
now.
telling me that Valheim has shown you that Albion Online is your game?
Yeah. So I did log into Albion, or I did log into Valheim. We did. I played that night with you. That's the only night. That's the
For
only
like
night
15 minutes.
Yeah. The funny thing was, we logged
That's our
into
lives
Valheim
now.
We logged into Valheim, and we really just talked about other things. We didn't even really play the game.
It was more of like a show meeting than anything.
Yeah, we mostly just talked about other video games while we were logged into Valheim. Yeah, I just still don't know what to do. I still don't know what to do there. I like that game, but I'm still just it hasn't really bitten me. I'll tell you what I do almost every time I log in is destroy my house and rebuild it. Like that's the most fun thing to do for me is just building the houses. And so maybe the treadmill I need to get on is instead of trying to get better and better gear, try to make better and better houses.
Nah, I got you. What we need to do is we need to get 10 people together, and we need to make 2 separate teams.
Yeah.
And we need to like give off a certain amount of time to build our structure and whatever, and then we get to attack each other. And we have to defend
each fight. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just turn the game into a total castle war.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would be fun. Can you make catapults in that game?
I don't know. You may be able to.
I don't know.
There's so much stuff you can do that I don't know about. That it's crazy.
Whenever you were, I'll tell you a malicious thought that came in my head. Right, whenever you weren't logged in, I couldn't get in your house because you turned on some kind of
Yeah. Oh, what is it? The obelisk or something like that?
You turned on some kind of shrine.
That's what it is.
And the shrine was for your house, but it was close enough. My house is close enough to yours that it also encapsulated mine. And so I couldn't actually open or close my door to my house. I had to go around the back and blow out one of the walls and build a new door. And
I didn't even know that. That's great.
And the thought I had was, there's a giant tree by your house. I wonder if I just cut down that tree and it fell on your house and knocked down the wall, and then I could get in and destroy your shrine.
Oh my god!
I could chop down a tree and hope it lands on the shrine to kill it.
I tried to put it in the corner as far away from your house as possible, but apparently it's too much.
I read a post on Reddit about that. Apparently that's a common problem, the way the shrines work if the houses are too close together. Which I wouldn't say ours is really all that close together.
No, it was
it's not
decent
super
amount
close.
away.
It's a pretty wide sphere around that thing. I wonder if there's I wonder if it's supposed to only work within the confines of your house, but it's just not really good at judging that.
It does a radius. It does a radius around the shrine. There's so many blocks around the shrine are protected. That's it. There's no other parameters.
Well, if it's a radius, yeah, that's a bad system. So our houses basically have to be at least that far apart. Otherwise,
right, and there's no way to tell how far apart or how far the radius is. There's not a big circle that goes up that you can see. It looks like when you activate it, a circle does come out of it, but you can't see it once you activate it. So what's the point?
You basically have to, if you're the other player, you basically have to walk around trying to destroy things. Build a wall,
put up a door, and try to open it. Put up a door a little further, try to open it.
Until you finally get far enough away that you can destroy it. Or open it, depending on whether you made a wall or a door. Every wall is a door, at least once. I've also... I reinstalled WoW, but I can't stand it. I just totally am done with WoW, man. I even resubbed, and I basically just donated them $14 because I just can't even bring myself to play it. The game is just, I don't know what it is.
But think of the children. What about your son?
I know. That's basically why I did it, and he hasn't been interested lately. But I know as soon as my subscription runs out, he's going to come in here and want to watch it. I got to figure out. I got to find some other Panda game for him to watch, and then it'll be fine. I'm sure there's a...
Don't search Panda games on Google. You never know what you might get.
I'll look it up on DeviantArt. We'll look up pandas on DeviantArt. I'm sure there'll be good stuff there. Yeah, I don't know. The game is just too much like... It's just too much like homework. I log in, and then I just dread what I'm supposed to do. You know, I know things.
Gotcha.
See, WoW's the opposite of Valheim. I log into Valheim, and it seems like there's endless possibility, and I don't know what I should be doing. WoW, I know what I should be doing, and it feels like homework, and I don't want to do it.
That's horrible. I will admit, I feel that way with a lot of games. It's just like, you log in, and it's just like, I just don't want to do all this. I just want to do one thing and have it be simple, and not have all these steps to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what, and we have to decide this episode what we're going to play in the next 2 episodes. And I don't know yet. I don't know what the right answer is. We'll think of it though. We'll think of it. Yeah. But I know that we discussed doing Path of Exile, and I am excited about Path of Exile 2, so I'm leaning towards that. But I don't know. I think if we jump in the Path of Exile, the way that I would enjoy it is if I just completely just went like completely into it. I start researching what build I want to make. You know, I try to like just look into all the different possibilities and facets of the game. Right. I guess the question there is do we want to play it? So they do the seasons thing where they just recently started a new season, and it was the one we discussed last week. That's kind of like a game show where it's like Ultimatum is what it's called. Yeah. But I've never actually played the non-seasonal game. I've never played the real game, and so do we want to do it as like Path of Exile, like sort of vanilla, or do we want to do the Path of Exile Ultimatum and play it in that way?
These are 2 separate games, or is it the same game and there's 2 different ways you can play it?
Yeah, it's the same game, 2 different ways you can play it. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
And I'm not sure. We'd have to test this and see. But I'm sure people listening that are more familiar with Path of Exile than I am already know the answer. But I'm wondering if oh, I just see David jumped in the chat. Hey, David. Yeah, he likes our background, and he says WoW Classic. I thought about WoW Classic. David, if you're playing WoW Classic, maybe I would enjoy it, but I just can't get over the graphics. You know, I want WoW Classic, but with modern WoW graphics. Yeah. That's what I want. Yeah, yeah. Because I do agree that it's the superior game, but I just can't live with it. I thought I could because we've been playing. You know, I'm not criticizing Valheim, but it has like a low polygon count style to it. Albion has a very low, polygon style to it. Although Albion has really good physics and really good color. That's kind of where where the payoff is. And so I thought a lot of modern games are not focusing on the graphic aspect of it. So maybe if I play WoW Classic and I just kind of think of it in that way, like this is a modern game, but it just doesn't have that, then he says Raid Shadow Legends. I played a ton of that whenever I was stuck in a hotel room in France for almost a month. Yeah. I didn't have a computer for almost a month. And so I thought, well, maybe I can think of WoW Classic as this is just a new like hipster indie game that's like low polygon count, but it's all about the mechanics. But I just couldn't trick myself into it.
Oh man.
David also brought up Star Trek Online. I actually did install Star Trek Online this week. I wasn't going to bring that up, but I actually did install it mostly for the screenshots. That's a beautiful game in space.
Is it free to play or is it
It's free to play.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah, another one that I should probably download, but don't have the time.
If you're a Star Trek fan, then you definitely need to play it. If you're not a Star Trek fan, I don't think most people would like it.
I have the potential, I think, to be a Star Trek fan. I just was never exposed to it enough to really get into it.
Yeah. No, that's like kind of how my wife was. Whenever we were dating, we started watching Star Trek, and it was one of those things where like I was watching it and didn't really know she was paying attention to it. And then after so many months, she would start bringing up, why don't we watch Star Trek? And I'm like, oh, really? All right.
That's great. Just like osmosis was like slowly subliminal messaging.
So yeah, I think I could get into Path of Exile. I think that might be the next one we should do.
All right.
I'll tell you what it won't be, and that's Black Desert Online. I tried to play it without looking on ProtonDB. I just installed it, and then it
Dumpster
is
fire.
Not it literally is like a no go. Like it's a hard stop.
It's like you get an Amazon package with nothing in it.
Yeah, basically I ordered something on Amazon and an empty box came in. That's exactly what it felt like. I installed the game. It took, it's an MMO, so it takes a while to install, although, you're installing the launcher and then the launcher tries to install the game.
Ugh.
I can't remember if the launcher won't even launch. So you install the game and then you go to launch it and the little splash thing will come up and then it just won't go anywhere. And so I was like, because I remember playing it. I feel like I remember even playing it on Linux, but I might have been on Windows. I look it up on ProtonDB, and it's a solid red. Yeah, borked. Yeah, that's what they call it. Yeah, solid borked, man. And it's been that way for a while because there's like tons of comments that are all borked.
So someone has tried to get it working at least, and
yeah,
it just hasn't happened.
But they sent me an email. It's odd. I don't know that it because I tried to launch the game. I don't know if maybe it renewed something with my subscription. But they sent me an email the very next day, like just out of the blue.
Oh yeah, it had to be something like that. That's too weird.
It was like saying something about how they had been like they were moving to some other distributor or something. I don't know what it was, but I was thinking, I wonder if this will affect the compatibility on Linux. But yeah, like I'm scrolling.
Yeah, they saw that it was Linux and they're like, huh.
Yeah, so I'm scrolling through the comments now on ProtonDB, and I'm back to 2 years ago.
Oh boy.
And every comment is red saying it is borked. So I don't think this has ever worked on Linux.
That's crazy.
It's pretty wild because I haven't, even last week we were talking about Magic Legends running really poorly. I haven't ran into many games that like literally just don't
work.
Like you just can't get it to work. Especially on Steam. I mean, it's like the Steam library now is like so close. I mean, like the Steam library, almost everything works on Linux. Even if it doesn't work as well, it still works in some capacity. So
yep.
Yeah, this was like the first time in a really long time where I've really just like hit just like a complete wall, It's wild. David wants you to play the Lord of the Rings LCG, which is playable on Linux. This tabletop simulator. We talked about that. Last week. Yeah, if you ever want to do that, I'll definitely teach you some card games that I've probably spent too much money on.
Yeah, I don't
never play.
I've played two card games in my life: Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon.
Yeah,
I'm like the exact opposite of you.
I played Pokemon. I never got the Yu-Gi-Oh thing. I missed the Yu-Gi-Oh thing. Pokemon has just been around so long that it hits so many different age groups.
Yeah.
But I missed the Yu-Gi-Oh thing. I remember.
Oh, there was another game, card game. I can't think of it now. I wish I could remember what it was. I can see the cards. I just can't remember what it was called.
Describe them to me. I'm sure I've played it. I'm sure of it.
I don't like. I can't even describe it. Like I could see the card, but like it looks like a Pokemon card, but darker.
Digimon.
What?
Digimon?
No, not Digimon.
No, not Digimon.
No, I never got into that card game. That card game was worthless.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, but speaking of Lord of the Rings, you want to do some of these news articles, or
if you want to do the news or our wanderings, either way, doesn't matter to me.
Oh, it looks like you got a new HP Elite book.
No, I actually had that.
Okay.
But since my mini PC did work as the server, so I got it working, and
oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was going to use that as my Steam streaming box for my TV. But now since that's working, I was using my HP Elite book, but then I'm like, why am I wasting the 17-inch screen when I could just stream games from my desktop out in my living room to the laptop with no problem? And then any game that actually runs natively on it, I can play anyways. Yeah. And the games that can't handle, I'll just stream. So
yeah,
I was like, that's a pretty good idea. Except for it needs a power cable because, yeah, you get like an hour battery life on that thing.
Yeah. I remember it's probably changed now, but when I worked at Geek Squad, HP had they only had 2 variations of their power cable. So I think if you get one of those universal ones, it should have the right.
Oh, no. I have the power cable. I'm just saying I need it or else the computer will die.
Oh, so you need a battery. Oh, okay. Yeah. You can get one of the eBay batteries. They're usually pretty cheap. I did that for my Kudu.
I don't trust the eBay batteries. I've heard too many exploding battery issues.
That's true. But you know what the thing I'll say in my experience with that is the only other than YouTube or anything like that, the only batteries I've seen actually explode in real life, and it didn't explode with fire, but did the whole expanding
and then it break.
Everybody's all right, back up, everybody. Was MacBooks. I saw
my MacBook actually did that. Yep. And the actual, I noticed it when the trackpad, I couldn't click it anymore. I'm like, why can't I click this trackpad? And then I flipped it over and I saw the back bowing out and I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah, it happened. So whenever I worked at Geek Squad, that came in all the time. That was so common. And also iPods. I remember iPods would do that too.
Really?
And
I never had an iPod do that to me.
Huh. Yeah, it so much that the back whenever they had the iPods, and they had the metal backs or whatever.
Yeah.
They would expand until they'd start splitting the back
splitting
off.
in half. Yeah. Wow.
It's crazy. And Scott had a MacBook that did that too. He left a MacBook with me one time, and then it started expanding. And it's crazy because you see all those videos of the batteries just lighting on fire. And so when it used to happen, I worked at Best Buy, it was just everybody was all right, back up. Let's, and then whoever the brave soul was would carry it out the store to the dumpster.
Oh man.
In a bomb squad suit, one of those giant suits to come in.
That's great.
That's cool though. So I tried to do that not too long ago, streaming, and I was using my laptop, and I had network problems on my local network, and I never did log into my router and try to dive into what the problem was. But I know that I had tried it in the past at my old house with a different router, and it worked flawlessly. It worked really well. So.
It better work with my router. I paid $150 for it, so.
Dude, I've got a $600 router. I've got a crazy expensive router.
Never mind. I'm not worthy. Yeah, no. I'm not worthy.
It's not no. It's not that. That was leftover money between selling one house and buying another house. Is what that was. Gotcha. No one needs a $600 router. I'll tell you that. So that's what I'm saying. My old $100 router. It works. So that's what I'm saying. It's not the money thing. It's just there must be some kind of weird setting I've got on or something. Or
gotcha.
I don't know.
It could be what do they call that? Where it routes the traffic better for streaming services and crap. I can't think what that's called.
I know what it's called. And it's on the tip of my tongue. And
starts with W, doesn't it? I think it starts with W. I can't remember. Anyway, yeah, that if that's not enabled sometimes, or if that is enabled sometimes, if you're streaming services, it won't work that well. But yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of Lord of the Rings, Amazon has canceled their Lord of the Rings MMO. Before I put this in the show notes, did you know there was an Amazon Lord of the Rings MMO?
I only knew about it a little tiny smidgen of a bit because my wife is into Lord of the Rings and she kind of cool. Saw it, and that was about it. And that was, I don't know how long ago I saw that. It was a while ago. That's all I knew about it though.
Well, if you won't play the Lord of the Rings card game with David and I, we'll get your wife to.
She'll probably
get her to convince you to also. No, it's not just you. I would have been shocked if you did know about it, unless you were just really into MMOs, because there was no video footage of it. There's nothing as far as we know.
Just a passing article. That's all I saw.
Yeah, no, there's as far as we know, there was not actually anything built for the game other than that they were working on this project. So it wasn't far enough along that they were starting to show footage or introducing an alpha or nothing even close to that. It was basically just articles talking about it. But I was excited about it because I follow these Lord of the Rings. I really we're joking about the card game, but I got into the card game, which hyped me to start watching the movies again. My wife and I have been watching the movies again, and like, you know, I just always I when I was a kid, I loved Lord of the Rings, like, you know, and so I was excited about the MMO. Well, and it's made by Amazon, which is interesting, not very promising, but interesting, because Amazon is trying to make this like big break into gaming, but yet they can't seem to get their feet off the ground. Like, they released a game that was kind of like Overwatch. I can't remember the name of it, but it was kind of like Overwatch, and it was like a complete flop, and they ended up taking it off the market. They're working on a game called New World right now, which New World looks like the most promising thing that they've ever shown us. But it's just, you know, they just had blunder after blunder after blunder until they got to New World, and now Lord of the Rings. And the Lord of the Rings MMO was coming out around the same time as a Lord of the Rings television series that Amazon's working on. And so there was the idea that, well, maybe they'll be like in conjunction with each other. Although they confirmed that they're specifically not in, you know, like, you know, you're not going to be playing characters from the show. They're not really in conjunction with each other.
Which makes no sense.
Yeah, it seems like what they would want to do to promote, you know, both. You know, I think the show will probably be successful, and it would be a good way to promote the game, or vice versa. But yes, apparently there were two separate projects, you know, within Amazon. But they were doing it as a joint with a company called Leiyu, and Leiyu was acquired by Tencent, which, if you know anything about Tencent oftentimes buys MMOs, and then they end up, like, you know, really pushing the in-store purchases and the game shop, and, you know, they push all that kind of stuff, and then eventually it'll come to, you know, some point where they quit updating it and they end up getting canceled. Like, anytime, if you're playing an MMO and it gets bought by Tencent, be suspicious.
So it's Google for MMOs.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Only the difference is Google starts a bunch of things and then kills it. This company like buys a bunch of things and then eventually kills it. So I mean, maybe, but Google does that too. You know, they buy services and then Googlefy them, and then eventually they may shut them down. Although FeedBurner's still around. Everybody thought it was going away, but it's still around apparently. But yeah, so they couldn't reach an agreement. I don't know what kind of conflict. I don't know what the struggle was, but they couldn't reach an agreement on Tencent in the game, and they announced that they're no longer working on this project. They specifically used the term "at this time," you know, leaving the window of opportunity that maybe it's something else they'll revisit, but I highly doubt it. I don't think we'll ever see a Lord of the Rings MMO by Amazon. At least there actually is Lord of the Rings Online. It's still kicking. It's going to outlive all of us.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings Online will be around longer than the internet will. Somehow it's still going to exist even after the internet, which I've never played. That's like the one MMO I've never picked up and tried.
No, I never tried it either. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I'm like, I'm going to play that eventually. Because I used to love Lord of the Rings games on like GameCube and PlayStation 2. I used to love all those Lord of the Rings games, but never picked that one up. I don't know why.
I don't know if it was the GameCube game or the PlayStation 2 game, but I have a distinct memory that I just cracked me up in the moment, and I think about it all the time. A buddy of mine, Jacob, we were at his house, and we were playing one of those Lord of the Rings games. God, I wish I could remember which one. But he chose the character Samwise, and we were in some moment where we needed help, you know, and he's like, Samwise Gamgee, represent Cheyenne! He came running in and like saved the day, and it was like, I think of that all the time. Samwise Gamgee representing the Cheyenne!
It's like Leroy Jenkins.
Yeah, he Samwised us. He before Leroy Jenkins existed, he Samwised us.
That's great.
Yeah, I look at, you know, the thing about the Lord of the Rings Online is, it's like, I look at it and it's just, it goes back to the graphics thing. I just feel like I couldn't get into it. There's some parts of it that doesn't look that bad. It's kind of like WoW, where it still has the old areas that look really bad, but then it's got kind of newer areas that don't look quite as bad. But then the character models are still dated, though. You know, they haven't really updated those character models.
What are you talking about? It looks great.
Are you looking at it?
Yeah.
Are you looking at it? Let me look at it. I haven't looked at it in a while.
It's not good. It's Yeah. Better than RuneScape, but not as good as WoW.
But I have to say, I listen to a lot of MMO podcasts, and it has a good reputation. Like people that play the game, like really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they're servicing their audience. Yeah, like they're doing a good job of servicing their audience at least. But I just think there are probably a lot of players that have been playing it since it was new. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this. I'm guessing this is Gandalf here. Maybe, I don't know. This is pretty dated looking stuff.
This might be Gandalf. I can't tell. His head's too pixelated.
Yeah.
He's got a wizard's hat.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd probably play World of Warcraft Classic before I'd play Lord of the Rings Online. Unless I knew people that were like extremely into it. So if anybody listens to the show, just like they want to be an evangelist for Lord of the Rings Online, please write to me and let me know. I can be evangelized too, but I don't predict that it's going to happen. But New World looks pretty good. I have no idea if it'll be playable on Linux. I don't know if it's coming out to Steam. If it comes out to Steam, I'd almost guarantee it'll probably be playable. But if they're launching it on their own kind of launcher or something like that, there's no telling. I don't know if it'll work on Linux or not. I want to try it without having to purchase it.
That looks really good.
I just, it actually looks really good. It was like whenever they first announced it, it was really PvP focused. Like it was like extremely PvP focused. And then they started releasing alphas and letting people play it. And as people made suggestions, the game got better and better. So they seem to like really like, listen to the feedback of the community, which again, the rumors and the things coming out of the Amazon Game Studio that's what they were lacking, is that there was people in charge of designing these games. Yeah. That like didn't play games. And so like they didn't have a connection with the community in the way that it seems like New World, they've really tried to work on that. And now the game is a whole lot more PvE focused. It still has a heavy PvP aspect. But I would say even more so than Albion, it has a PvE environment. Like Albion is really really PvP focused, and it only has PvE things there. Almost like they're just trying to check a box to say that they've got PvE stuff, but it's really PvP focused. I think that New World is in that vein, but it's way more sustainable if you're a PvE only player. I've never played it, but this is just based on the things I've seen about it. I've watched a lot of videos about it. I am anxious to see when it comes out, but I really want to see if it turns out that you have to buy the game in order to install it at all, then I'm going to have to watch I'm going to have to watch some forums or something.
I agree with you
to see if it's playable on Linux. Because I don't have a Windows install now.
Neither do I. Yeah, I got rid of my Windows install.
It used to be that I would buy stuff and then try it on Linux, and then shucks, it doesn't work. I guess I'll go to my Windows PC. But now it's got to work.
Yep, that's my criteria too. It's like if it doesn't work, I don't want it.
I can't spend $60 to find out it doesn't work. Yep. So I don't know. I'll watch it closely, and I'll definitely report on it here. Nvidia 465.24.02 is now officially stable on Linux. Sorry, Linux Mint users, this is not coming to you for a little while. You put this in the news.
Yep. I saw it come up on my feed, and I figured I'd just put it in there. It's not like nothing too crazy. It's got some Vulkan updates to Nvidia and all that, which is nice because Nvidia, I think Nvidia's lacking a little bit in their Vulkan stuff, because I did notice that with Valheim on my computer, Vulkan versus OpenGL, like there was no difference. So I'm like, is my computer being bottlenecked, or is it the Vulkan that's not as good as it should be yet? I couldn't tell you truthfully for that, but that's some stuff coming. It's gonna be in there eventually. Ubuntu will release that. Speaking of Ubuntu, I know how to pronounce it. It's Ubuntu. I understand that. I get that. But I always say Ubuntu when I'm talking about it. I try so hard, but sorry, it's been a pet peeve of mine.
I would in my daily life, if it was not for Linux, I would never have ever used the word Ubuntu. But if I am talking about the Linux distribution Ubuntu, I say Ubuntu.
Yeah, I know.
But I think if I were actually using it in an African word,
I don't know,
like means community or something.
Maybe.
I think I might. I would never in a million years ever say that. But if I did say it, I probably would say it. I would try to say it correctly. Versus, I feel like so much of the community has just adopted Ubuntu versus Ubuntu that Ubuntu sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Even though it's wrong. I don't know.
I try to say it right, but I just can't. It just comes out like that.
The Linux community, Damon, the Linux community has so many like ways of saying everything, and we love to argue about it. But
in the end, it doesn't matter as long as it works.
I think there's something to be said about the like socially adopted way to say it.
Right.
So like GNOME versus GNOME.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like so many people have just adopted the fact that it's GNOME.
Right.
That even if GNOME is correct, I feel like GNOME is kind of correct because like 90% say 90%
I say
of people
GNOME.
say that.
I've always said GNOME.
I always say GNOME. I don't even know what's right, but I always say GNOME. I know that the graybeard Linux people, they probably are the authority on it, and they say GNOME, so they're probably right. But I always say GNOME. Yep. It doesn't sound right to me.
Nope. What's that there genome stuff?
But I have a funny story about that, and I've heard this. I've actually heard Linux Action Show talk about this too. I think they were kind of tongue in cheek, joking about it, but it literally happened to me in real life.
No.
Whenever I first started working at the company that I work for now, and it was my first time ever getting to like use like Linux professionally. I said we were doing something, and I said, "Oh, well, you just got to add it to the fstab," and they looked at me like, "The what?" And I was like, the file where you put like all your mount points, what you want to mount whenever the computer boots. And they were like, "Oh, FS tab."
That's great. That's great.
I for years had always thought it was fstab because I'd only ever read it. I had never heard it said.
Some people actually say that though. I've heard people on YouTube call it fstab.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
I think Chris Titus Tech calls it fstab.
Maybe I'm not that far off then. I don't know. Maybe this is another one of those things where it's just
that's one of the actually. Now that you bring that up, I actually was wondering how you actually were supposed to pronounce that because I've heard people call it FSTab and FSTab like Chris Titus Tech.
Again, we're doing the whole thing where Linux love to debate these sort of things.
I know, right?
I think FS tab because it's probably file system tab is probably what it is.
Right. That makes the most sense.
For some reason, I thought it was you stab those drives in there. Like the system's booty, you stab them in there real quick.
Oh man, that's good. I didn't even think of it that way, but that's even better. I like that. Oh, all right. Man.
So, Microsoft and Discord. So Microsoft, there was a posting that it was either a rumor or it was officially announced, but Microsoft was trying to buy Discord. And that was the last I heard of the situation. And I think that you and I were talking over Discord and we said, "Oh, we need to remember to talk about this on the next episode." And that may have been the last episode and we forgot to talk about it. Or it might have been this episode, but the story has changed since we last discussed it. But you kind of have the scoop on that. Apparently Discord turned Microsoft down.
Yeah. Yep. I can't, I should look it up. Let's see here. I think it was like 3 billion or more, 13 million, I think it was. Let's see here.
And they were like small fries, not worth it.
Yeah, here it just says more than 10 billion, and they turned it down. They were like, "Nope, we're going IPO, man. We ain't taking your cash."
More than 10 billion. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's wild. Discord's not open source. It's not. It's available on Linux. It's obviously heavily used in the gaming community, Linux and Windows. But it would have kind of felt like a defeat if Microsoft had bought it. So
yeah. I mean, they're not as bad as they used to be, but
they're not. They're really not.
It's still just like one more thing for the 5 corporations to own.
Yeah, I guess really when it comes to Discord, I guess I shouldn't care because, like I said, it's not like an open source project. I don't think it's like a it's not some dude. It's not like Lutris.
No.
Like if Lutris got bought by
my
Microsoft,
gosh,
you
that
know what
would
I mean?
be a story,
Like
man. Every Linux
it's not just like
show would
some
go nuts
regular
on
guy.
that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. Like it's not just like some regular guy working on a project that he's passionate about and making it open source. I mean, this is a corporation. They make a product. It's closed sourced. We just all happen to use it.
It's funny that you bring up Lutris because I just heard this today that actually a guy posted a pull request to Lutris and the Lutris developer said, "Okay, I'll add that for $5,000."
Whoa.
Yeah, he's not joking now. He's like, "Nope, I am not.
Yeah.
I am not doing stuff for free. That's like, crazy,
Yeah. Hey, there's something to be said about that. If you're asking for some minor maintenance to be fixed, that's one thing. But if you're saying, I think Lutris should have this wild
That's
feature,
basically what happened. Yep.
Yeah. No. I totally get that. It should be maybe a milestone in his Patreon or something like
Right.
that. If it's really popular, make it a milestone in his Patreon. But no, these developers should be getting paid for what they're working on.
Yeah, that was just a side note. I heard that today, and I was just
interesting.
like, "Oh, then they mentioned Lutris. I remembered that."
Yeah, man, no, that's interesting because we talked about Lutris last week. Okay, I got this is the last story in the news, and then someone in the comments is asking us for help. So,
live help. How much should we charge for that?
FTP1, stay tuned till after the news, and then you can ask your question. Matter of fact, go ahead and post it here in the chat so that we can read it in a moment. But the last news story, this one's kind of a doozy. The University of Minnesota gets banned from submitting updates to the Linux kernel, and
this
super story sneaky. Has been. Yeah, it's a pretty strange story. So the gist. All right, so the gist. The easiest way I could summarize it is, I guess it was students or some sort of maybe some members of the University of Minnesota was submitting intentionally malicious kernel patches with backdoors, right, or intentionally malicious.
Yep. Trying to poke holes in it, basically. Poke holes in Linux.
Right, exactly. And they were submitting it, and then once it was approved, they were then going and saying, "Oh, well, actually, you shouldn't approve that because it was a malicious, malicious kernel patch, and we did it under the guise of disclosing this vulnerability to you." So they were saying they basically were doing like a university project. Can we pull one over on the Linux kernel developers? Wow, basically,
that's crazy.
And yeah, it's pretty wild. And
so in reality, they actually did pull one over on them.
My understanding. But they announced it. They definitely got some through. Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that part of it.
So yeah, my understanding is they got some through. And they basically submitted to a developer, and then once it was approved, they then emailed the developer and said, no, you shouldn't do that. But now, because of that, they're going back and scrutinizing all of the previous submissions that they had made. Right. And where the ethical dilemma comes in here, which I don't really know that's that big of a dilemma, but the ethical dilemma that comes in here is they're saying they're doing it under the guise of disclosure. Right. But no one asked them to. It's not like, companies hire, white hat hackers or penetration testers, they put, Google does these bug bounty things. Right. Like, they have open projects where they're openly asking for this, this type of attempt to see if anyone could pull one over on them. And this was not requested in any way. Right. The University of Minnesota just took it upon themselves to, to try to do this sort of penetration test. Wow. With these malicious submits. And so whenever the Linux Kernel Foundation found out about it, they basically banned that domain that was in the University of Minnesota's email. They banned that domain from making any submissions, which essentially bans University of Minnesota from doing any sort of development submits. And so I guess in a way they proved that it worked, that because you tried to submit malicious code
and it worked.
They figured it out and they banned you. It worked. Thanks.
Oh man. Well, you know what? I find funny about this story is that it happens right after BSD had their whole debacle with WireGuard. Did you hear about that?
No, I don't think so.
Well, WireGuard was being added to, I think it was FreeBSD, not OpenBSD, but FreeBSD, and it got basically shoehorned in a way that it missed all the maintainers. Nobody really looked at the code or anything, but it was just garbage code. Like, it would not have worked in a production environment. And somebody went in and they're like, oh, no, we got to pull this. And this, we're talking like, I don't know, it was really soon to the release. Like, it was just a trifecta of bad things that happened all at once. Like, and they pulled it and they basically rewrit the whole thing with the developer of WireGuard and resubmitted it, where it was at least in a working condition. And I find it funny that this happens right after that, where maybe somebody thought, if WireGuard can get into BSD, why can't some crappy code get into Linux? And we're going to submit this to the Linux kernel just to test that.
That's interesting. I wonder if it isn't. I wonder if there was some connection there.
I just don't know if it happened so soon from that I don't know if it would have been enough time for them to think about it, it, and then submit it, you know? But it's just such a coincidence that it happened right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that so one of the things I've heard kind of debated about that story with the university is like maybe that was an overreaction to just completely ban them.
Right.
Because they are a credible source. They did send an email disclosing it. I don't know enough. I'm afraid to say anything like completely incorrect.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything, against them or against anybody. It's just a crazy thing that happened.
I know that at least once they disclosed it.
Right.
I don't know that they did every time or they tried it more than once, or I have no idea of those kind of details, and that's why I'm avoiding them. But it seems credible that they probably truly were doing it for that reason, even though their method was just completely wrong.
Right.
And so I wonder if this is a permanent ban, or after some period of time they might
think it over a little bit and kind of maybe work with them and say, okay, these are the guidelines that you guys have to abide by before you get enabled into adding to the kernel.
Yeah, and all I've done is read one article on it. If anybody out there has any details and they want to post it in the comments on YouTube or send us an email, I'd love to discuss it more because I think it's an intriguing topic. But that's all we really had for news today. FTP said he needed help, and then he never posted his question.
Oh no,
FTP,
come back, FTP.
He said CKP, you're my only hope.
we won't charge. We promise. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make that comment. It's free. It's free.
If you post it here, I'll read it and answer. Otherwise, I think we're going on to surviving the GPU crisis.
Will it run Crisis?
Oh. All right. So this is. We've picked out some cloud gaming services. How did you choose these four?
So I basically just did a search for cloud gaming services, and I got basically the first whole page of Google, or no, DuckDuckGo, both actually, I think, was all like lists of which is the best. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to choose one of these, and I'm going to look for the Linux compatible ones. And there was a lot. There was over 50 after looking through them all. And I just was like, I'm just going to pick 4 that are really good for Linux that I know work, at least at some point will work with Linux. And these are the 4 that I came up with.
Okay. And of course, Google Stadia had to be on there because that's like that's the one everybody knows. Yep. That's the one everything's going to get compared to.
Yep.
So of course it had to be on the list. And then out of the other 3 that you have on this list, the only one I've heard of is the GeForce Now.
Yep. That's the only GeForce Now and Stadia were the only 2 I heard of before I actually looked all this up. So I'm in the same boat as you.
But then you also have Shadow and Parsec.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And it's Shadow Cloud Gaming Service, because if you don't type that into Google, all sorts of crap comes up. Parsec, you can type in Parsec Gaming, Parsec Cloud Gaming. That'll come up because Parsec is a bigger company. It does more things than just gaming, but it also does gaming.
Okay. I've never heard of those 2 at all.
They seem pretty good. Both of them seem decent, like as far as what their page looks like, at least. I never tried them or anything like that. And we're not endorsed by any of these people either. This is literally, I just looked this up. It took me like an hour to do this, so.
So why don't we start with Google Stadia, just because that's the one that I've used and that I think most people will be familiar with.
Yep.
So my understanding, so Google Stadia works in a browser.
Yep.
And so obviously it works on Linux if it works in a browser. And I signed up for it back when they were doing like a free 30 days or a free 60 days. I had to sneeze. Sorry about that. I signed up for it when they did like a 30 days or like a 60 days or something. And of course I forgot that I had signed up for a free trial. So I ended up paying the $10.
Happens to everyone.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only time I've ever used one of these streaming services. And I have to say that my experience with it was so bad that I'm a little shy to try any of these services. Because it did not go well. Basically, every game was different.
Were you trying to do it on a 5 megabit connection?
No, I was doing it. This was even at the old house. This was the one I said that the Steam thing was working. Yeah, dude, I tried it and it felt like I was watching a video about a game and not actually playing a game.
Yep.
And it was just kind of just off enough that it was off-putting. And sometimes it was so bad that it was like lower than 720p quality. And then sometimes it was, even when it was good, it still felt like I was watching a video. It didn't feel like I was actually rendering, because I'm not rendering files on my computer. I'm actually seeing a live feed of things being rendered somewhere in Texas.
You're literally watching a YouTube video of the game, basically, that you're playing.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And so even when it worked well, it just didn't feel right. I don't know how to describe it. It just didn't feel right.
There's a lot of factors that go into it, you know. I mean, the reason why I want to do this topic at all is because of the GPU shortage right now. And I know nobody can build a gaming PC, and maybe somebody wants to get into gaming at all. Like, I'm talking Windows or anybody just wants to get into gaming and they just can't. Yeah. This is like the only option you have now other than buying a pre-built. But if you want to actually build your own PC, this is the only option you have really for right now to game at all.
Yeah, how bad is like if you go to Best Buy right now, can you buy?
You can't buy anything.
That's crazy. I'm just going to bestbuy.com. I want to see what
if there is, buy it, because you can probably sell it for twice the price. No, don't do that. I don't endorse scalping at all. They are scum of the earth.
I actually just used a bunch of old computer parts to build a gaming PC for a friend of mine, and it had two graphics cards in it. They were old. They were like they were old cards. They were like 770s or something.
You probably could have sold them for a couple.
I was thinking I probably could have sold them both.
Probably could have sold them both and then bought a new PC, like a pre-built.
All right, I just looked up graphics card on Best Buy, and there's a you can get you a GeForce GT 710. What? Those have 2 gigs of graphics now? Wow, that's crazy.
Hey, you can play any of these streaming services on that. Just pick it up if you need a graphics card.
Every real graphics card is sold out. Yeah,
there's no way to get one.
Sold out.
You have to go on a waiting list or buy it from a scalper. And I mean, don't buy it from a scalper. Don't endorse that crap.
Holy cow! They're all seriously. They're all sold out.
And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's Amazon, Newegg, name it, and it's gone. There's no graphics cards. None.
That is crazy. I knew it was bad. I had no idea.
And I'm really also doing this section. I wanted to do this section to like lift people's spirits a little bit about this whole thing, because I know there's a lot of people who are really bummed about this whole thing. And at least for now, that they can just pay for a service for a little while, and they can get rid of the service when they get a graphics card. It's just temporary thing, you know? So
I think this service will be good for, especially like when I use Stadia, I think that if I were playing a single player game, it wouldn't bother me that much. I think it would be okay. But if I'm playing with other people, I feel like I'm at a disadvantage compared to them.
Right.
Especially if it were first-person shooter.
Oh, yeah.
I think in an MMO, you probably get away with it as long as it's not like a action. Like if it's like ESO is a little sketchy because ESO actually has some like targeting and you know there's some hack and slash kind of combat. But something like World of Warcraft, I don't even think the minuscule difference in timing is not gonna it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, like if you're trying to play CS:GO, you're not gonna be you're gonna be killed.
No. I couldn't imagine playing Counter-Strike. But I'm basing this solely on Stadia.
Right.
Stadia being browser based, I feel like is at an extreme disadvantage.
Yep, that definitely could be something.
Yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by these other ones that have like you actually install a software. But let's just run through some of the specs that you listed out here for Google Stadia. So like I said, you get a free month, but then it's $9.99 per month after that. And another thing I'll point out that I remember from my membership is that you can buy games on Stadia, and they have games that come free just because you have the monthly payment. And then there's also every month you get so many points or so much money that you can put towards a game on the store.
Right.
And then there's also special deals for people that are paying the premium. But that being said, there's a lot of games that still cost $60, just like you were buying the game on Steam.
Right.
And even though you're paying $10 a month, you might get a discount, but you don't get the game. You still have to pay for it, which I guess in some ways is understandable. But I don't know. It just feels a little cheap with the way it works with Google Stadia. I feel like it feels a little steep to still have to. It's like paying for the Amazon streaming service, where it's like you still have to buy movies.
Right, yeah, to actually own them. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
But you said it could do 4K, 1080p, 720p.
Yep.
My experience, I was always playing at 720p. Good day, I got 1080.
Yeah.
So,
this other stuff could be screwed up because I just copy and pasted and I kind of tried to fix things, but yeah.
I think Stadia is the baseline. I think that's what, if we were to test one of these, we'd have to compare it to that.
Right.
So which one do you want to dive into out of the other three?
We can just go up the list and start with Parsec for now.
Okay.
That's the one I least know about. The other ones I got pretty good information on, but this one was kind of a little weird with, it didn't give you the pricing unless you actually downloaded the software. I mean, it's free to download the software. It's just, I didn't feel like doing that and going through all that stuff. But, Parsec Cloud Gaming Service, that's their full name, whatever. It works on Windows, Mac, Android, Ubuntu. See, there I go again. And Raspberry Pi 3. Now, it says specifically Raspberry Pi 3, so I'm assuming they don't have a Raspberry Pi 4 image out yet.
That's
I don't know. And it's Ubuntu 1804. That's what they have listed. But, I mean, it'll probably work on 2004, most of the time.
I bet the same is true for the Pi 4, too. I bet it's just what they've they guarantee it'll work in this scenario. Right, exactly, yeah.
But it says specifically Ubuntu on their website, so I know that if it doesn't work, you can actually call them and say, "Hey, I am having this issue." You have support.
Oh wow, yeah,
for that. They say the minimum requirement is 30 megabits per second to actually play their games. So that's a little steep, but even if you look at Stadia, it still says 30 megabits per second to play smoothly at 720p. So if you really look at the actual performance, that's reasonable. 30 megabits is probably about as low as you're going to want to get on any of these services.
Yeah, for sure.
And these guys are pay as you play. Now the only thing I could find on the pricing, which is probably wrong, but it's a 3-year-old Reddit post, and they say that it's 65 cents an hour. So
wow. So they don't have that. They don't have that like displayed.
They don't have it anywhere. Not that I could find. I looked on all the pages. I could not find it.
That's crazy.
I figured once you downloaded the game, whatever, it would just charge you. I guess you could put in your payment information, and it would just charge you, and it would say how much. But they did mention something on Reddit that you could pay a month, but it was some absurd amount for some reason. I don't know.
That's pretty wild.
But yeah, I have not tested this at all. I don't know how it works. I know that it's Linux native, and that's why I really wanted to put it on here. So, if anyone wanted to try it, they could go ahead and try it. And if it's pay as you go, I mean, you can just play an hour and pay 65 cents and be like, oh, well, this sucks or this is good.
Yeah, I like that model. I like the idea that you just, if you're not using it, you're not paying for it.
Right. It works if you're not a hardcore gamer that games all the time. Then it's going to get you, it's going to charge you a lot.
Yeah, I pulled it up. They have, I pulled up their website. They have Divinity Original Sin on here.
Yeah, they had quite a few games on there. I couldn't find on any of these other ones, Shadow, Cloud Gaming, Parsec, or Google Stadia. I couldn't find if you can use your Steam games on them or not, or if you could use any kind of purchased games on them. I didn't see anything about it. I could be wrong, but I didn't see anything.
I would expect it to work. Again, I can only compare it to Stadia, but to me, it seems like.
Do you know if Stadia is like that? Does it work with Steam games?
No.
Okay.
No, Stadia. You only can play the games you're allowed to play through Stadia or that you've purchased through Stadia.
Okay. So that's that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and these guys are like a larger company. They do they do other things. As far as streaming service goes, like I think they stream desktops, like for work environments and stuff like that. I saw.
Oh, okay.
They do a lot of stuff, so they are a little more credible to me to be, like more not legitimate, but more stable as a gaming platform.
Yeah.
I think they have a lot of infrastructure in place to do this.
I know that's something that, like outside the gaming world, a company I used to work for, I know that was something that they were considering was instead of setting up a PC and having to maintain that infrastructure for every employee, right, they would do some sort of you use your own device, but you use some kind of streaming service for your desktop environment. That's an interesting concept,
and that makes sense in some situations, definitely.
Yeah. I think it would be annoying if I had to work in it.
Yeah.
But
I would agree.
But I could see it. I could see it from the company's perspective. I could see why it would seem like a good idea. So that's interesting. So it has a client that you install.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's a Deb or a
native wanted that,
or whatever else the other clients have, the Android, Mac, all that stuff. They have.
Okay.
It's an installable thing for each one, I should say.
That's cool. That's really cool. So, and then there's Shadow Cloud Gaming Service.
Right. This one, actually, to me, the website looked the best. Like, it looked like if I went to this website, didn't know anything about cloud gaming, and I saw this website, I would have been like, oh yeah, I'm signing up right now, because it told you everything. It told you how they do it, what they use to do it, and all this, just every aspect of from where the server is to your house and how it happens. They have it all on their website. It's crazy. It's like an open source thing that's not open source.
Yeah, they have the very first thing you see is $11.99 a month. So they have their pricing right up front. I've seen this one before. I know a guy that was considering using this, and I was hesitant just because of my experience with Stadia, but I kind of want to try one of these out. I kind of want to try one.
This one intrigues me the most because for $14.99 monthly, or $11.99 if you commit to a year, you get a dedicated GTX 1080. You get a 4-core processor with 8 threads, 12 gigabytes of memory. Now, I don't know if that's on the GPU or the CPU memory. It doesn't say. And then, which kind of it kind of concerns me a little, and it's a little wary about this, but you get a fixed amount of storage. You get 256 gigabytes for the base price that I mentioned before, but you can upgrade it to 2 terabytes, like up to 2 terabytes. It goes to 512, 756 or something like that. And then 1 terabyte, you can get steps. I didn't see where the pricing was for that, but you can go up higher. So I guess when you purchase a game on their service, I guess it goes towards this gigabyte installed, your total gigabytes used, I guess. I didn't really look into that part of it, but that's the only part that was a little concerning to me, because 256 gigabytes is not that much, and I don't know how much it's going to be to step up, you know what I mean?
This one kind of it reminds me of, they do a similar thing in crypto mining, where you can, instead of having a mining rig in your house, you can just rent time,
right? Like a pool. You go into a pool or something like that, right?
Yeah. This reminds me of that, where you're actually buying like a I don't know how they do it. It's probably virtualized. It's probably not really a physical setup,
right?
But you're buying the equivalency of this physical setup. And so whenever you talk about managing the storage, you're managing the storage as if you had a 256 gig hard drive in your computer.
Right.
And so you couldn't install an unlimited amount of games on those.
Right.
You'd have to do it over time. So now what I wonder about this one is, you may need a VPN. I wondered about this one. Would I get a desktop environment? Like, would this be to the point that I basically have a dedicated server that I can install Steam and log into?
I don't know.
Or is it still like I'm curious about that.
I didn't actually even consider that, but that does kind of intrigue me about this one, because you almost get your own dedicated computer in the cloud.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're all running Windows 10. That's what they said specifically on their website. That's what they run.
Yeah. It even pointed that out. That's funny.
I didn't even think about that.
I wonder how that works, because if it does, $14.99 is pretty good.
Yeah.
For that capability.
Yeah.
You could not get a dedicated server with those specs for $14.99 a month. So I mean, that seems pretty good. I'm curious about that one also.
Bo gets rid of his gaming PC next week.
I'm gonna try all of these.
Goes in all on this.
Hey, at the rate, if graphics cards prices are really what you say they are, I might be selling my graphics card and just using one of these.
Yeah, right. It's no lie, man.
That's wild, dude.
Yeah, and this one also has a Linux app for Ubuntu. So that's good. It's a dedicated app, you install it and all that jazz. So, yeah, another one. And my cat. He's here.
What's your cat's name?
Logan.
Oh.
He has little pieces of hair that stick up above his ear. And it reminded us of a Wolverine, so we named him Logan.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this one's pretty interesting. But then I think the one that I'm most likely to try.
Same here.
I think I actually will try this. Maybe I should do a live stream trying it or something. But I think I probably will actually try this. The GeForce Now, which you pointed out that it does not run natively on Linux, but you provided a link where they show a process to get it to run on Linux.
Right. Now, I don't know how up to date this link is or anything like that, and if they update the service, who knows, maybe you have to go in and fix something. I don't know any of that. I just know that I found this link and the guy said it worked, so I said, I'll put it in there.
Dude, we'll try this. I think I might set up a stream where I'll actually try this.
Okay.
And I'll follow these steps and we'll see if it works. And if it works, I may sign up for a month.
And this,
try it.
Yeah, this one's guaranteed that your Steam games will be playable with it as long as it's available in GeForce Now.
To me, that is the biggest feature.
That's most valuable to me too. Yep.
Did you read this update at the top? Update 4/13/2021, which was only today's the 24th.
Oh,
it's 10 days ago. It has been quite some time since this article was published. Nvidia has come a long way in their browser streaming tech and now allow pretty much any Chromium-based browser to access GeForce Now on most operating systems, including Linux.
Oh, sweet. I didn't even know about that. Yeah, I looked for a while and I didn't see anything. Wow. Huh.
Yeah, apparently this is only 10 days old. Apparently, you should be able to access GeForce Now on your Linux device by navigating to play.geforcenow.com. But if you run into the unsupported device issue, you can follow the steps in this article.
Okay. Well, that's even better.
So I should try it both ways. Because to me, I don't know. I don't know how sophisticated these clients are.
Right.
Like, is it basically just a web app I'm installing?
It could be.
Or is it doing more like it's somehow able to occupy more resources on my PC because it's a native app? I don't know. It could be placebo.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I'm curious because I don't know. To me, it seems plausible that an installed application would work better than a browser.
Yeah.
But then again,
it could be an Electron
streaming something. Yeah, it could be just an Electron app. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Well, probably not in the case of GeForce Now, but yeah.
I don't know why they would do that though. Why would you make an Electron app when you could just do it in the browser as it is? Because it's basically just Chromium in a wrapper.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Do you think that's what it is, or do you think that the application actually does have?
It must. I don't see why they would go through the trouble of that when they could just do it in a browser. It must be a dedicated
it'd be more convenient
application
for users.
I think these services have been around actually longer than GeForce Now and Stadia. I can't say anything concrete to that, but I feel like they have been because...
No, I'm pretty sure they have, yeah.
Because if you don't have dedicated apps for much of anything anymore like this. Streaming services, I should say.
Amazon has one also. Has a game streaming service.
Do they now?
They do. I think it might be like in alpha or beta. I don't know if it's actually like fully released. Let me look it up.
Yeah, I didn't come across that one either. Now that you mention it, though, I think I heard something about it, but just in passing.
Yeah, it's called Luna.
Oh yes,
Amazon Luna.
I heard one of the podcasts talking about it. Probably Lup.
Yeah, it's in early access, and it's looking like they've got their prices listed. Early access price $5.99 a month. And you can get a controller for it, and supposedly the controller is really good. From what I watched a video about it. It was probably a promotion, like it was a YouTube channel. It was not one that I like regularly watch, and so I don't know how credible the guy is. But it was probably like a promoted video for this service. But he talked about the pros and cons of it, and it seemed a whole lot better than Stadia. So I'm interested in it. But yeah, it's in early access. How do I request early access? Okay, so I went to request early access. It wants to know my download speed.
Oh my gosh!
They don't want to send it to nobody with no 11 megapixels. They don't want to send it to anybody with 11 down trying to play it and then say it's crappy because they got bad internet.
Hey, that's what Stadia should have done from the beginning. They just tried to get as many people as possible on it, and then everyone was like, "Wow, this is garbage."
Yeah. So that's another one I'm interested in. I might try to see if I can get the early access, but you still have to pay for the early access.
Yeah. That's how things are going nowadays. It's like even the beta stuff you have to pay for. Yeah.
Oh, everything is like everything now comes out early access or in alpha or beta. Yep. Nothing comes out and like fully launched anymore.
Okay, that's because nothing is actually fully launched when it is fully launched. There's always a day one patch.
That is like a whole nother discussion that we could have on a full podcast. But like nowadays, the demand to release something is so great that game companies will just launch and then
Cyberpunk 2077. They delayed how many times, and it was still garbage when it came out. At least on the Xbox and the PlayStation 4. I don't know about on PC exactly, but I know on the Xbox, PlayStation 4, it was garbage.
Oh no, it was. No, I've never played it, but everything I've seen about it, it released really bad, and I think now maybe it's
starting to get there,
becoming more playable. Yeah. Anyway, I guess So I out of this list, I want to try GeForce Now. I think I'm going to try it.
I feel the same way. I want to try it too. I want to see how good it is. Because I just don't want to do Stadia. The ultimate reason why I don't want to do Stadia is they've done so many weird things since they started it that I'm afraid they're gonna just get rid of it.
Yeah, I'd be scared to buy a $60 game in it.
I would never buy a game in it. Never. It's just like I would never pay for Gmail if they made me pay for it, because like you never control. I mean, Gmail is pretty safe. I'm not saying Gmail is going away anytime soon, but I'm just saying in practice, I wouldn't pay for something that Google did unless I was guaranteed that it wasn't going to be gone in like a month.
Or it was something that you could use right now,
right.
like yeah, but buying a game, you're like, should I want to play this game 3 years from now?
Right.
And this service has disappeared.
Yep.
Like, I still want to have the availability of that. The fact that GeForce Now allows you to play your already existing Steam games is huge.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I would want to do it right now.
That is huge, yeah.
But I want to see how many games they have that are compatible with it, because it says Steam games, but only if it's available on their service already.
I have a question. Do you have to have an Nvidia card? I didn't even think about that. Or will it work if you have a Radeon card?
I don't actually know.
I'm about to Google that right now.
that's
I didn't
funny.
think about that.
I never looked into that, but yeah, I that can't be, because there's a lot of people on Intel just playing this game, this GeForce Now. It has to be.
Oh, how does it work? Oh, because what you're playing it on doesn't matter, and it's not using. I'm thinking about it like it's like the Steam streaming service.
No, yeah,
like it's not actually using your PC to render the game.
It's not like Moonlight. It's not like Moonlight.
Farm out there. Yeah, it's not like Moonlight. Yeah. What the hell was I thinking? And so how does it know? You have to log into your Steam account, I guess. Like, how does it know your Steam games?
You know what? I don't know that either. Maybe you have to link it.
You must have to link it, because
you can link
Steam
it to like Discord too. So why wouldn't you be able to just link it to your GeForce Now account?
Yeah,
I think that's probably just how it works.
Yeah. No, you're right. And then I guess only some games are available.
Only the games they have in their repertoire or whatever.
Because that's what was throwing me off. Because I was thinking about it like my PC's rendering the game, and so as long as my PC can play it, then it'll play.
I got you. Yeah,
not all the way it works. So Valve or Steam or Nvidia, they have to make those games available on a server somewhere for you to be able to connect to it. So if you buy some strange, do you think Last Epoch's on there?
I doubt it.
Or is that too indie?
I doubt it.
Yeah, no, I doubt it. That's probably only bigger games. Wow. I'm really intrigued though. For $10, I'll try it. Just for good show content. That's interesting. I wonder, are you looking up to see if Last Epoch is on GeForce Now?
Oh. There's a Reddit post.
Uh-oh. It's the only place it's multiplayer. if you play it on Nvidia's GeForce Now, it's the only place they have multiplayer enabled on Last Epoch.
On Reddit, 26 days ago, it says, "We're looking into it. Can't fully confirm it yet, but it's looking good so far." Is
that on the Last Epoch subreddit or the GeForce Now?
GeForce Now.
Okay.
Oh, no, that is Last Epoch. No, I'm wrong. It's r//
I thought it probably was. That's what I really love about that game. They're developing a really good community, and they're really open with posting things on there. Dude, that game is really, really good. I'm just waiting on multiplayer. I just can't see. I was looking at Wolcen. I was thinking about buying Wolcen, but it's only single player. I don't know what it is with me in single player games, but I want to play with other people. But you know what happens?
Social.
I like. So that's what I was going to say. Is I like playing games where I have the potential to play with other people, and then you know what I do?
You just play by yourself.
I play by myself. I don't play.
Yep. It's just nice knowing the people are around.
Yeah, I just like knowing they're there. I could talk to
you, but I'm just going to walk on by.
I got invited to a party on Albion the other day, and I was like, decline.
I'm going to go to my dungeon alone.
But I like knowing the possibilities there.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. I think this is interesting technology, and I think that this will be a thing in the future.
Oh yeah. I think a lot of gaming is going to be done like this. It's the same. It's just like
Yeah.
the streaming. We used to go to Blockbuster. Where's Blockbuster now? Gone.
Yeah.
Netflix is Blockbuster.
So do you think that, man? So what will gamers invest their money in? And whenever
always
20 years from now, whenever we're fully invested in streaming gaming,
there's always going to be somebody with that PC Master Race computer and just like, I will never buy a streaming service. I will only get my games from retail stores in a CD case.
I think when we reach full convergence where it's like indistinguishable between the two, then I think that at that point maybe it'll be like it'll be like people are like souping up the routers. They got like a liquid cooled router. This is like
that would be great.
Like
I'd love to see that. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Everybody's running BSD on the routers.
Trying to get that little bit of edge.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
What are internet speeds going to be by then?
Well, I mean, I'm sure in some places in the country this service works great now because they have full gigabit and stuff like
Some
that.
Some places have 10 gigabit. If you live in Texas close to Google, you get free 10
like
gigabit.
San Francisco or something.
It's freaking crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure in places like that they got no problem using this service. I just still feel like it wouldn't feel like I was really rendering it on my computer. Like I feel like it would still look flat to me. But I don't know. Maybe it's going to get so good that we just can't. Yeah. We just can't.
If it gets really, really good, I think I'll be able to do it. And the latency is another thing that I kind of probably would bug me if I ever did play one of these, because you won't notice it, but like if you played the game on your PC where it rendered on the PC versus on there, I think I would notice it. But if I just played a game from there, I would not notice it. The latency I'm talking, like between moving my mouse right or left and the character actually moving or whatever.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know exactly what you mean. Let's try. I'm going to try GeForce Now out, and we'll talk about it in the next episode. But I'm going to try it out, and I'll try to do some streaming with it. Maybe.
Okay, cool.
And then I think we're going to try to play some Path of Exile. This week.
I think that's a good thing.
All right.
I just got to get time to do it.
All right. I think we'll play Path of Exile. That sounds fun to me. And then we'll talk about that next week. Path of Exile is, and we'll go into details, but it is available on Steam through Proton. They don't have a Linux version, but if you play it through Proton and you enable Vulkan, at least in my scenario, that works great. I can't even tell that it's running.
And you run Arch.
That emulation. Yeah, man, if you're running Arch, if you're one of the cool kids. All right. And we'll see you then. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out? We should start doing that at the end of the show.
Plug. I don't know.
I think I'm going to be on Mintcast next week.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'll be able to do that.
Yeah, we could plug that out. I didn't even think about doing that.
So you can check us both out there on Mintcast. I can't always make it, so I'll still give them a plug every week. But next week I'm pretty sure I'm free enough to be there. Things are still weird for me right now because of the new job schedule.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure I'll be good. And then definitely check out. There's a new Red Shirt Union coming out. That's a tabletop RPG game based in the Star Trek universe, and boy, they got themselves into some trouble this week. So definitely check that game out, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
See ya.